Power Hour with John Lee.
Is Stonehenge in England. Everybody knows Stoney. I used to think it was called Stonehenge because people went there to get stoned, but it's actually a reference to the stones in the construction. And there are 85 of them. 85 of these stones in Stonehenge. And they weigh up to 44 tonnes. The heaviest one is 44 tonnes. I'll say that again, 44 tonnes. 23 feet high. So that's Shaquille O'Neal, Shaquille O'Neal, Shaquille O'Neal. And 3 Shaquilles are coming in at 44 tonnes. The whole thing weighs 1,500 tonnes, 1,500 tonnes in total. And when you look at it, the central construction, well, all of it, is perfectly level like that. So you get a long time ago, thousands of years ago, 5,000 years ago is the current estimate, although that fluctuates and always in the same direction back. The blue stones, the decorative ones, they weigh 5 tonnes, and they were brought 200 miles across very unforgiving land and water. And I know I'm not a puddle, not a river, an estuary, a large expanse of water. And I mean, there's all kinds of arguments about what it is and what the function of it is, but everyone agrees that it aligns perfectly with the summer solstice. Again, the sun comes down one day a year and shines perfectly through the main front section of Stonehenge. What is the significance of that for these people? I don't know. But what's interesting to me is that people have tried to recreate this in order to explain how and why, etc. You know, the obvious mysteries of it. And they say that because of the date, the people who built it were the ancient Britons, pre-Celts, you know, way before the Romans or any of the Germanic tribes arrived in England, or the Vikings or anyone like that. This was way back. So this is the just coming out of the Stone Age, starting to play with metal. But some completely illiterate, completely innumerate, dragging your ass across a field like a dog. And you are going to build Stonehenge. And you're going to align it with the summer solstice. And it's going to be a mathematical and geometric masterpiece that will be marvelled at for millennia. That's how good it is. That people in thousands of years from now will not be able to replicate it, understand it, or produce it. So how did people who couldn't read, couldn't write, and had no sophistication about them whatsoever build Stonehenge? Well, they tried to explain it, and of course they used piss poor tools for the job. So these guys that I watched a documentary about this, where they tried to explain how this was done, because you have to bring the stones from Wales, so you've got to go across the estuary. You're talking about a long distance and a massive expanse of water, and hundreds and hundreds of journeys with these stones, these blue stones. I mean, journeys from the place where they got the rocks to the edge of the estuary, across the estuary, and then from the estuary to another place. So logistically, it'd be incredibly difficult to do. And in order to replicate this, they decided to build a canoe. A good canoe, but a canoe nonetheless. And demonstrate that you could get a stone, you reckon you found it, or where it was found originally, and then transport that stone to the estuary. They don't do that. The stone just appears at the side of the water. They don't show how they got it from the mine, from the stone mine, the quarry, to the estuary, to the water. It just appears there. So they must have brought it there on a truck, which means they use cranes to get the fucking stone onto the truck, and then they used a truck to get that to the water. Well, your experiment's shit already. Did they have trucks and cranes and dynamite? No. So why are you using trucks and cranes and dynamite? And then they're making the canoe, and they start using, they've got a guy, and he's got the tools that they apparently had, smacking the tree that they're using, the half a tree that they're going to use to make this canoe, and he's just tickling it. And then he said, yeah, well, so we can see that he's like, he's making an impact, he's making a dent in this wood, so we can conclude that you could do it with these tools. You might need 1,000,000 years and about 1,000,000 hands, but you could do it. So they just chuck them on the grass and get the chainsaw out. So you're not content with fucking dynamite and massive cranes and lorries. No, you've got to get the chainsaw out now. So that's what they do. And eventually they manage to get this stone onto these canoes, and they move, a few meters, I don't know, 40 meters across a really flat water on a really nice day. And they literally say in this documentary, well, obviously we've only completed a tiny fraction of what would be necessary just to get the blue stones to Stonehenge. And we've cheated all the way through the process just to do that. And we still didn't do a good job of it. But we've shown conclusively that ancient British people built Stonehenge. Right, so you've done a fraction of the job and you've cheated all the way through, and that's how you conclusively prove your conclusions. That's bullshit. And the question becomes why? Why have you gone and made this documentary? Why have you deliberately cheated in the process? And why are you trying to present that process as some kind of proof of anything? Why don't you just say, well, we were completely unable to replicate it and we've got no idea how it was done? So I really don't like that. I find that kind of thing insulting, not just to my intelligence, but to the people of the world. We don't need this kind of misinformation all the time. And hypersimplification as well. I think it's dangerous for the global intellect. So I'm going to rock it up to more recent times, because I couldn't do a Mysteries of the Ancient World with such an inclination towards the unknown without mentioning UFOs. My mate Johnny Spence would kill me if I did that. So Roswell. What's that? Roswell is a town in the United States of America, in the USA. And something very interesting happened in Roswell in 1947. What? Well, a crash of some kind. And it's hotly debated, and, people get really emotional about this and angry about it. I don't. I just think it's interesting. So what happened? Basically, people were going about their daily lives out in rural Roswell, the kind of place where you find the nicest people in the world. The humble, friendly people sitting on the porch, drinking lemonade and playing the guitar surprisingly well. And they're all doing that, and then they see a load of flashes of lights in the sky. Everyone sees it. Everyone in the whole town sees it. The sheriffs, law enforcement, whatever. Everyone sees this, including the military, because they've got a military base there. And nobody knows what these lights are. Right, they're not particular to the decade. If you saw them now, you would have exactly the same reaction. They're not of this earth, or they don't appear to be. Could they be this? Could they be that? Secret weapons, secret aircraft? Yeah. I'm not an expert on aircraft or weapons, so you could easily deceive me, and probably other people as well. But anyway, what was seen was lights in the sky, and then there was reports of a crash. And a guy called Brazel, he goes out in the field and he finds metal strewn around, right? And it doesn't behave like metal. You can bend it all you want. It's almost like water, he says. When you drop it on your hand, it acts like water. But you can't break it. It feels soft, but you can't break it. You can't tear it. The next day, the Air Force announces to the press that a UFO has come down in Roswell, that they've found it and they've secured it, and it is a UFO. And this goes worldwide. This is carried in the press all over the world, of England, France, China, wherever you want. This thing is a worldwide news sensation, okay? And then the next day, basically, could have been the next day, the army comes back and says, it wasn't a UFO, actually, it was a weather balloon. And of course that raises the obvious question of what the fuck are you talking about? Yesterday it was a UFO confirmed by the military, and today it's a weather balloon. So obviously a lot of people just said, nah, it's not a weather balloon, including members of your own military. So what are the problems with this? One is that The 509 is the squadron that was at this military base. The American squadron that was at this military base was the 509. And they were the only atomic bomb squadron in the world. Right? These are the people who dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I think it's pronounced. And obviously committed terrible kinds of genocide and, nuclear pollution in Japan. But these are people who know exactly what's in the sky. Right? They are they are experts on all things aeronautical and bombs and anything you can do with electrics and metal. These people know exactly what it is. And these are the people, a major and a colonel, concluded after looking at it and testing it and discussing it. These are experts on the subject. These guys who are qualified to drop bombs on cities in Japan can't tell the difference between a UFO and a fucking weather balloon. I mean, what are you saying about your own army? And the guy, the colonel, Blanchard, who said this, who made this press release public, he didn't, that wasn't the end of his career. He went on to become a 4-star general. And he never renounced what he said in the first place. He never came out and said, well, no, it was a weather balloon. Never said that. I mean, he was asked about it publicly, badgered about it, actually, by the townspeople in Roswell. And he said, look, I don't know what it was, but I've never seen anything like that before or since. Right? So he never retracted it. He never changed his story. Now, it seems to me that something happened there of major importance. And it could be, yes, it could be secret experimentation. It could be connected to the Cold War. It could have been a failed missile attack on the United States by Russia. It could have been all those things. But it could have been a UFO as well. It's not outside the boundaries of my mind to conclude that that is possible. But that's purely a question of opinion. But there was definitely a cover-up. People were threatened. The radio station was threatened because they interviewed the guy, the major that found the metal or was presented with the metal. And they got calls from the Pentagon. We'll shut your radio station down. You'll never broadcast again. You do not speak about this on the radio. They went to local people, local witnesses, and threatened them. And these people are very intimidating. And, they scared the living daylights out of these poor people that just happened to be looking at the sky one day. So you think, well, what are you doing that for? Well, maybe for national security reasons. But anyway you look at it, it's dodgy. And a guy called Brigadier DeBoss, he was a brigadier when he retired. He was a general at the time when all this happened. And he confirms that he was told to cover this up. He was told to lie about it and told never, ever to mention it again, which is all very, very suspicious. And what is probably outside the bounds for most people is that many, many witnesses saw the UFO. They saw the aliens. They all said the same thing. There were 2 aliens dead on the floor, and 1 alien was alive. One of the aliens was alive, and it was walking around. And then they were taken into the military base. All right, I wasn't there to say whether it happened or it didn't happen, but it certainly stinks. When you something like that happens with all these witnesses, the military themselves are coming out saying it's a UFO, and then the next day, boof, no, it's not. Shut up about it. All right, it was just a weather balloon. Why don't you calm down?